All right, section 7.2, multiplying polynomials. So first, in our objective, you will be able to, first we're going to start with just multiplying binomials. Again, remembering a binomial is a polynomial with two terms or two monomials. For example, x plus 2, binomial. 2x squared plus 5x, binomial. So multiplying them, we would take this times that. All right, so to be able to multiply binomials, you need to be proficient with the distributive property. So we're going to go back and we're going to just basic distributive property. Distributive property is if I'm multiplying a number, for example, 3, times a sum. 3 times, let's go, x plus 2. Or let's just make them numbers. 3 times 4 plus 5. Okay, I'm taking 3 times this. We could follow normal order of operations, add the 4 plus 5 first, and then multiply by 3. But the distributive property tells us that I can multiply the 3 times the 4, and then the 3 times the 5, and then add what I get. So I'd take the 3 times the 4, which is 12, the 3 times the 5, which is 15, add them, 12 plus 15, and get 27. So there's our distributive property. In this case, I don't know, it might have been easier just to add the 4 plus 5 and then multiply by the 3. 4 plus 5 is 9, 9 times 3 is 27. But if you didn't know your multiplication facts, distributive property might be helpful there. Where the distributive property is super helpful is if I have 2 times the sum and one of them is a variable. 2 times x plus 4. Again, I would take the 2 times the x, take the 2 times the 4, and then add. Again, this add is from right there. Oh. So 2 times x is just 2x. 2 times 4 is 8. So this simplifies into 2x plus 8. It really eliminates those parentheses. So these two are what we call equivalent. They're really the same thing. So if I have 2x plus 4s, I really have 2x plus 8. Okay, so we're going to be using the distributive property a lot when multiplying binomials. Okay. The set of polynomials is closed under multiplication. If you remember in our previous section, we talked about closed. What that means is if I multiply two polynomials, a polynomial times a polynomial is always going to equal another polynomial. Meaning when I multiply two polynomials, I get a polynomial out. Okay, it's closed under multiplication. Okay. So to multiply, I really like to color code because I'm going to be distributing more than once. So we have our distributive property. I'm going to have to use the distributive property more than once. What I mean by this, in this first one, I want to take x plus 2, and I want to multiply it, there's a times in there, times x plus 5. So I'm going to have to multiply, it really doesn't matter which way you go, I normally always go with the first one, is I'm going to have to multiply this x plus 5 by both the x and the 2. So really, this is just a distributive property twice problem. So I'm going to multiply by the x, so I'm going to distribute this x, and I'm going to multiply it times both pieces of this. Again, I'm not going to multiply it by the 2 because it's adding to 2 right here. This is x plus 2. But this x is being multiplied times this whole thing. So I have to multiply this x times that whole thing. So I'm going to take x times the x, and I'm just going to write down this step first. X times the x, take the x times the 5, and add it. Okay. So there was my first step of distributive property. Okay, next step, I multiplied by the x. Now I need to multiply by the 2. So I'm going to take the 2 times the x and the 2 times the 5. And again, and add it. And since this is an add here, I'm adding these two things. Okay. So I took the x times the x times the 5, that got me that, plus the 2 times the x and the 2 times the 5. Now I just need to simplify. Well, x times x, both of these have an exponent of 1, so that's going to simplify to x squared. Multiplying x times x is x squared. Just like 4 times 4 is the same as 4 squared, 4 to the second. 5 times x times 5, we normally write it as 5x. Actually, let's get rid of it. I'm going to do this in black. Sorry. X times x is x to the second. Since 4 times 4 is 4 to the second. Plus x times 5 is 5x. Plus 2 times x. Plus 2 times 5 is 10. Now, the only thing we can go from here is put together like terms. Simplify. So this is a 5x and this is a 2x. So they both have the same variable part, both x's. So I can add 5x plus 2x is 7x. But I can't really do anything else with the rest of this. So I have x to the second plus 7x plus 10. We normally like to write it in standard form, which it is. This is x to the second, x to the 1. Here we have x to the 0, no x. So we've got it in standard form. There's my polynomial answer. So here we multiplied a binomial 2-term times a binomial 2-term, and we ended up with a trinomial 3-term. Won't always happen that way, but it did in this case. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and let's do another one. X plus 3 times x minus 4. Oh, here we introduce a subtract, which I'm going to write this as plus a negative. That's a really important step. If not, we'll goof up. So now we, again, want to distribute. So I'm going to distribute this x. So I'm going to take the x times the x plus the x times the negative 4, x times negative 4. Okay. And then now we're going to multiply by the 3. So plus 3 times the x, it's a times, plus 3 times the negative 4. Okay. And now we're going to simplify. X times x here we decided is x to the second, plus x times negative 4, negative 4x, plus 3x, and then 3 times negative 4 plus a negative 12. Again, we have like terms, negative 4x and 3x, that's negative x. So I have x squared plus a negative x plus a negative 12, but we don't like those plus and negatives, so x squared minus x minus 12. There is my trinomial. Again, I multiplied a binomial times a binomial and got a trinomial. Okay. All right, we're going to do one more example. I'm going to show you a separate method. This is using a table. You can multiply these. It's really just a way of organizing your distributive property. So here we're going to do this using a table. A table is just a way of organizing the distributive property. Some people love it, some people hate it. I want you to do it. But then after this lesson, it's up to you. You can choose which way you want to do. It's a way to organize the distributive property. So first we're taking, again, 2x minus 3 times x plus 5. I'm still going to come in and rewrite this subtract as plus a negative. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a table. I'm going to draw a vertical line, a horizontal line, and I'm going to write each of these in one spot. So I'm going to write this. It doesn't matter which way you write it, but I'm going to split this up into 2 monomials. We've got a monomial of 2x, so I'm going to write 2x in one column, and then we have one of negative 3. I'm going to write that in the other column. So here is this guy. We've got 2x and my negative 3. So then over here is where we're going to write the x and the positive 5. So I'm going to have my x and my positive 5. Again, we'll have 2 rows. So there's my table. Okay. And now we're going to fill in these boxes. What goes into this box is going to be the multiplication of these two things. So I'm going to take the 2x times the x, and that's what goes here. So this is going to be 2x times x. Okay. Which ends up being, this is 2 times x, so this is going to be 2x to the second. Okay. So then I wrote that 2x. So then now this box is going to be the product of the thing below it and next to it. So I'm going to take the negative 3 times the x. So this is going to be negative 3 times the x, which we'd write as negative 3x. This box is going to be the 2 and the 5, the 2x and the 5. So here I'm multiplying the 2x times the 5, which is 2 times 5, 10x. And then here I would multiply the 3 and the 5. So the negative 3 times 5 is negative 15. So now I look at these pieces, and those are going to be the 4 pieces. And we look to see, do I have any like terms? Well, sure, I've got this 10x and this negative 3x are alike, so I can add them. And I get, what, 7x. And then now I want to write them in, I will write my 2x squared first, my 7x, and my negative 15. So there is my product. Okay. What I have circled in red would have just given me this piece right here. Okay. And many times we omit, we do the multiplication in our head and don't write those pieces. Okay. Many times we don't write those bits. Okay. We do that kind of bit in our head. But I like to write them, especially when starting out, so I can see where they're coming from. Okay, so now I'd like you to do some practice, page 369, 4 through 20 even. Okay, when it tells you to multiply using distributive property, please do. When it says to use a table, please use a table. Be very careful with those negatives. That's a huge glitch for a lot of people, is forgetting that. So always rewrite your subtracts as adding a negative, and good luck.